What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined again. It's been a little bit with Mark Fisher, uh, co-founder of BLM Rhode Island chapter. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
All right, cool. So we
Perfectly.
were rapping a little bit before we went on air. We were having a good time, man. I got a feeling this is gonna be a great podcast. So I guess we're gonna cover black and white unity, and I gotta say, Mark, I mean, with everything that's going on right now it just seems to me like the Democrats are absolutely like shell shocked. They're shell shocked that Trump is even won, that he's even coming back into power. And when I talked to you before, you were already kind of leaning towards uh, the direction of Trump, and you were going that direction, right? Or were you fully on board with Trump? Are you just now going on jumping on board with Trump? Are you even on with Trump at all?
Yeah, it's funny because it's been an evolution and a progression. But last time we spoke, I was definitely anti-Democrat and getting on board with Trump. And now I'm all aboard.
Now you're all on.
I'm all aboard.
Okay, so now it's more important than ever to talk about this unity between whites and blacks. And what about the Mexicans?
Well, I feel like every color of the rainbow in between is important too. But nobody talks about black and white unity, and it's something, unless it's the media highlighting, our differences and trying to pit us against each other. I feel like, there are racist people out there, but the media goes out of their way to highlight those, and nobody talks enough about, unity between the blacks and whites, how
Dude,
it's helped us to get where we are and how it's much needed to go further.
I'll be honest with you, man. I don't think if you just look at children playing, like white, black, whatever color, they're not discriminatory towards each other. Nobody you don't even know what racism is until you get older. And then you start
Exactly.
getting hardened, and then you start judging people and saying, "Oh, you're right. They are like that." Or, "Oh, you don't see that? See that? It's because he's black." Or, "You see that? You see that because he's white." Or,
Right.
"That's a Mexican thing they're doing." You start learn. That's a learned behavior from all my experiences. Okay, like growing up, and I grew up in a very diverse, multicultural city, El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, going back and forth to El Paso. I grew up in. It's a learned behavior, man. I don't think anybody would even pay attention to racism if people didn't bring it up like MSM.
Right.
I think at this point now we all would just be like, who's racist? What you okay? What? Am I right about that? I mean, it's a learned behavior.
Absolutely right. And the media just loves to pit us against each other because that's their bottom line. Racial inflammatory politics. And at this point, it's so obvious that white people don't really care about that stuff. And black people shouldn't either. You know, we marched side by side with white people during the civil rights era. They helped to create the anti-slavery party. Actually, they created the party of Lincoln, which is the Republican Party as we know it, to help overthrow the Democratic Party, which is the founder and birth of the birther. And so, we kind of got to get back to the basics and understanding, how great this country is, the potential that we have, and stop letting these race baiters on the left, these racial and inflammatory politics divide us, because that's what the media just loves to do. And let's be real. If they don't do that, then they lose their bottom line. They lose their viewership. They lose their sponsorship. They lose their viewers, because the viewers they feed off of that stuff,
I
and
agree.
that's how they stay in business and keep their programs and their grants and their funding coming and
And
their
I think we see a lot of it with people like that come out like agitators that inflame the whole racial divide, the whole thing. Folks, we're going to get into this, but one second, get your noble gold, folks. Get your noble gold. Are you new to investing and have savings you need to protect? Well, right now with the Middle East war, the Ukrainian war, and maybe even the Taiwan war coming soon, you need a playbook that's safe. Allocate some gold now and avoid the frenzied panic of the unprepared. When fear reigns, gold protects the wise. Noble Gold Investments offers a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin with new IRAs this month. Shield your savings with the Noble Gold Investments IRA, folks. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com now, noblegoldinvestments.com, and get started, folks. All right, got to do it. Got to do it. But Mark, I've noticed like, especially recently, I'm on the side of the spectrum that I believe all of this is by design. Okay, they want to keep pitting us against each other, and I think this is all who's in charge of this. All the three-letter agencies,
yeah.
and I think and the non-governmental agencies or organizations that are funding this stuff to purposely divide and conquer America.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll never forget a conversation I had with Rick Ross, the original Rick Ross, at the boxing fights here in Ruidoso, New Mexico. That was talking about. He showed me his book and everything. He was talking about how the CIA infiltrated hip hop culture and the drug culture and put them together so they could purposely take the father out of the household and funnel black men, especially and whites. It affected
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
um, into the prison systems.
Yeah.
And I mean, this has been by design for a very long time. Do you agree with
Very
that?
long time. And the funny thing about it is they now have only infiltrated the black community. They have infiltrated all America. And what they have done is they have used groups like BLM as a cudgel to push other leftist agendas like feminism, like same-sex bathrooms, legal immigration, all of these things that don't benefit black people in any way, shape, or form. They use black people to try to push these things
Like the
through.
catalyst or like the cannon fodder.
Yes. And the black man was the canary in the coal mine, and we would have been wise to pay attention to what they were doing to our families and to the fathers of our families. Because what happened was uh, they destroyed the black family by these social programs. They broke the family up. They didn't allow the father to be in the home or anywhere near the home in order for the black woman to benefit and take advantage of these benefits of housing, of food, of checks, of money, and all of these things. And so what happened was they put black women in a role which enabled them to emasculate their men by taking their children and their roles. And then they filled the job quotas, and including the cogs and the welfare machinery itself, where they jail the men they should be marrying. And so now what happens is these problems have already started spreading to white and middle class America. And now they're devastating mainstream politics as we know it by emasculating all men, destroying all families. And like I said, the black man was the canary in the coal mine. So now what we need to do is push back against this because, like I said, it's the thing that they fear the most is the black and the white people actually seeing what they're doing. It's no longer black, white. It's elitist against the commoner, against the average everyday American, because I have no problem. Most white people that I know are my friends. So these fabricated, made up most white people that, in the country I'll never meet. So they don't have any effect over my life like the government can. Like they can come in and just destroy my family. These three-letter agencies break up our families, break up your families, throw us in prison, make some trumped up charges, and hope that Americans just stay docile.
Right. And this goes all the way back actually to the Civil War. I mean, blacks were promised their freedom if they fought, right? I mean, and a lot of them entered in droves and they fought very hard for something they believed in, but it was very well orchestrated and contrived and manipulated when they quote unquote got their freedom that then the real division started coming in, right? Would you
Yeah.
say this goes all the way back to then?
Well, yeah, because you talk about, like I said, this racism is it's not something that doesn't exist because there's racist people for sure. There was racist people that, like I said, caused the Republican Party to be formed. There were racist people that were against Reconstruction and did everything they could to stop it. But I believe that where there is evil, um, good people who stand up will always win. And when they stand up and are accounted for, and this is why we are where we are right now. This is the greatest nation in the world, the greatest experiment ever, the American democracy, where it's for the people, by the people. Think about that. This is a very fragile, delicate experiment.
Yeah.
It's dancing on a thin crust of a volcano, of a democracy here. And it could be just like that. From you look at this Democratic Party. Look, if we was one potential president or non-president like Donald Trump away from losing everything
Right.
that
And
we
and
know.
and and what's important is that like look what they did with Kamala. You know what I mean? They tried to pawn her off. They tried to sell her to the black people. And they even to the point that they even had I mean, and it should be insulting to black people, quite honestly, because look what they even tried to do. They had twerking at her rallies, dude. I mean, I mean, the
It's the
level
height. It's the height of just absolute disrespect to think that you could push this woman off on us as a black woman, first of all, and then secondly, think that would be the reason that we vote for her. See, we
right.
already fell for that with Obama.
Right. And
Diddy did absolutely nothing.
Candace Owens owned her, dude. Like she really,
Owned her.
she
And I'm not a
owned her.
big Candace Owens fan. I'm not gonna say I'm anti Candace Owens either. But I'm just not a huge Candace Owens fan. But what she did there, I
Yeah.
became a fan for a minute. I mean, that was
Yeah. I
amazing.
mean, she definitely showed that she was,
She has a
she's,
platform, that's for sure.
yeah. But I mean, you look at, I mean, just to say like how they, to me, how it's so obvious that they use even celebrities to like I don't know, like I guess they use them to like inflame racism even more. Like if you look at someone, let's just for a second, like what's the big thing now? It's like, oh, don't be anti-Semitic, don't be, and who started that? Who started that? Who did they use to push that agenda? Right now, what I see is Kanye West. I remember when Kanye West, he was hitting he was wearing that mask and coming in and talking about he loves Hitler and this and that, and it was just like so insane, crazy. But then we were getting ready to watch Israel go to war, So to me, it was like the Middle East was about to be in flames, and then Kanye comes out and starts pushing all this anti-Semitism stuff, and then you got other hosts following Kanye lockstep. I mean, to me, this is all
Mhm.
easily done and easily seen by design, correct?
Yeah, and not only that, because you look at the Asian hate um, spin that we had, they used black people. They always use black people.
Always use black
The
people.
immigrants, they use black people. Oh, black and brown. No, no, it's not black and brown. It's not people of color. It's black people. It's brown people. It's Caribbeans. It's Africans. It's
Yeah,
white
but
Americans. But they want to lump black people up with everybody, with the Asians. But when it's time for resolutions or to resolve our situations, then we're on our own. But
right.
when it's time to take advantage, of the oppression and all the issues, it's like, okay, now they all want to be part. They all want to take advantage of the benefits in the reparations and the vouchers and all these things the illegal immigrants are getting. That black people should be getting as citizens that we fought. Let's be honest, that we fought so hard to get. And when we did the civil rights, we made sure we made a provision for immigrants coming into this country so they wouldn't suffer the same fate that the foundational Black Americans suffered. And they come in here and they just, instead of being quiet, sitting down, folding their hands and not touching anything, they want to talk about how come Black Americans are so far behind and they can't do anything. And, it's so easy for us. But see, they should have been quiet, because what happened was they forced us to come together, right? We see Chicago flipped red,
Yeah.
the whole country flipped red. And it's because of these Democrat issues that forced us to do it. They don't know how much of a asset, or I would say a factor they were in solidifying Black and white relations and galvanizing Black and white people behind Donald Trump. So I would like to thank them in hindsight.
You know, it's pretty interesting to see how they managed to do this and inflame the racial tension. Like if you look at like I don't know, I remember Rodney King back in the day, right? And that kicked off all the LA riots and the whole thing, right? And then that kicked off a whole new thing. But as it progressed, at first it instigated the fire, got everyone riled up and pissed off and out marching. But then, if you really look at it, who's behind all this? It's white men, and it's the whites that are behind these movements, man. If you go look at the marches, bro, I did at the BLM marches. I was like, wait a minute. Why is it all white people marching
Yeah,
for BLM, bro? Like,
yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on here, right? I
yeah,
mean, then when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, if that doesn't say something to everybody, I mean, it was all like purple hair, pasty people walking, holding signs, like almost like paid actors.
yeah. And I saw that too. And when I was being interviewed back home, because I'm not in Rhode Island any longer, I'm in DC now, they would ask me questions like that. Why do you think it started out with so many people in the movement, and then like they flickered out or whatever? And I said, well, I think the intentions were right in the very beginning. But over time, it weeded out those who were actually, about this movement work, and those who were just about yard signs. And I think the intentions were there in the beginning, but then you also have some bad actors and those who took advantage of the chaos, like a lot of anarchists, who took advantage of the moment and wanted to burn buildings and loot and destroy police cars and police stations and stuff like that. We was from the very jump. You go back and look at my record, I was against violence. I was against destroying our own city. I was totally against that. And I was all for education, pro unity, all of these things. We were sat down and had sit downs with state directors, state leaders, all of these things to try to come together and get an understanding and try to understand the root problem of Black America's horrible conditions. And ultimately, it comes back to the family structure, which is what I'm saying. This is what the Democrats have been working overtime for over 60 years. And that's why I said it. You can't look at the Black community and see the hand of intelligent design behind it from the Democratic Party, because our city shouldn't still look like a bomb was dropped in it. We still shouldn't have, such high crime and poverty. The education and in the family structure shouldn't be falling apart. Black people still shouldn't be, have such a high mass incarceration rate. So, and these are all black run cities, Democrat run cities, and by people who look like me and who thought like I thought. So that's why we realized it's time. That's the definition of an insanity, just going back and doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And it's now it's becoming, see, the veil is being removed by the Democrats. They thought for so long that they could just continue to play on the ignorance of the people. But the people woke up, and starting with, and now with the Donald Trump movement, and, people are realizing that, okay, you know what? It's not me against my brother. It's not me against my neighbor. It's us, the American population, against the elitists.
Right. And if you think about it, like they managed, this was a very they had to be very patient in this process, in the way they handled this, the way they did this by design, by music, by taking the father out of the household, they package it very nice, and they market it to the public as something that's going to benefit humanity, like women's liberation, or the day after pill, things like that. But really, there's an insidious and sinister agenda behind it, everything they do. And that's how they get away with this stuff. And if you look at, like, just look at the protests, or like look at the BLM protests. I mean, weren't they bussing in agitators?
Same thing they do with illegal immigration. It's nefarious, it's insidious, and from what I understand, they're shutting down hotels now, one after the other, because Eric Adams understands. He wants a pardon. He's playing ball now. And I get it. He was one of the first to speak out. I get it, and go against the grain. But at the same time, he created all of these problems that he now is complaining about and griping about. So, but they're shutting down these hotels. They put them up in 5-star hotels. They were feeding them, giving $3,500 a month, giving them down payments on homes, giving them college educations, free citizenship. And it's like, okay, how do we benefit from that?
Yeah, they're taking your jobs, bro.
And then, what's the things that, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Like, how do American people, we're waking up, and it's like, we don't benefit from these policies, these leftist, crazy, unbridled, duplicitous policies. We don't benefit. Americans do not benefit in any way. It's about power for them, maintaining, achieving, and retaining power. At the end of the day, that's all the Democrats care about. They don't care about how they get it. They don't care if it's steal, destroy, displace. They don't care. Replace with a whole new voting block of illegal immigrants. And now they're rushing to try to make it easier for them to not have to check in the ICE and loosen up restrictions and make them citizens, deputize them, and solidify birthright citizenship. All of these things before Donald Trump comes into office, because this is all they ever cared about. It's so obvious. And then when you see what Biden just did, oh my God, that just is the stamp. That's just the exclamation point on how hypocritical the Democrats have always been. They're the ones who talk about no one's above the law, no one's above the law, no one's above the law, over and over and over again. That's their soundbite. And then this guy says over and over again, I'm not gonna involve myself in this. I'm gonna let the courts decide about my son. I will definitely not pardon him. KGP, I don't know, over and over again like a broken record. He's not gonna pardon him. He's not gonna pardon him. Well, what happened a couple of days ago?
Pardon him. I also see, like, with these mass deportations coming, I'm even wondering myself, I'm like, what are they planning before even inauguration? And if they get past inauguration, you better believe that from what I've seen, I live on the border, so these immigrants that are here in that time of mass deportation, that's going to throw mud all over Trump's face, and they're going to go, see, they're all going to start pointing their fingers and saying, see, he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy. Do you see what's happening to the country now? It's in chaos. But who brought all these people in? So the
Democrats.
cure has to be bigger than the disease. I mean, that's what I think their next play is here. So what do you think is their next play?
You're
And they'll
right. Yeah,
use
absolutely.
black people. They'll use black people to push
Yeah.
whatever they're going to push coming next.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is my point. This is what they're doing now. This is what I was talking about when I said Eric Adams was like, oh, we can't, our city can't hold up. You're the one who brought them all in because you wanted to be on page, you wanted to be on code with these anti-American. Now you're like, oh, I can't, we can't. New York, we can't. Oh, I'm all about New York first, New York, New York, New York. And so now, they're saying, oh, now Trump's in office. Now the whole world is behaving. The whole country's,
Crazy.
behaving. You got a few, you know,
Crazy.
insolent, actors who are gonna take Trump to court, who are gonna resist, and Tom Homan's already made it clear he's not playing.
No, no,
He's
he's
like, you can
not.
say do whatever you want. Go ahead.
Yeah,
And
don't cooperate. You're going to find yourself in jail.
yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Find out FAFO. And they're gonna find out. So yeah, they're gonna all be doing all of this, actors and trying to be like, oh, see, this is Trump's doing. But like you said, the cure has to be bigger than the cure has to be bigger than the disease.
100%. And then if you really think about it, I want to get your viewpoint on the prison systems because if you look at everything, because I remember in the 90s, bro, and I've always been ahead of the game, dude, in my thought process. I was like, I always kind of was onto the agenda when I was really young. And I remember like everybody, I remember in the 90s, bro. Remember in the 90s, everyone wanted to be black. Everyone thought they were black, bro. And it was like,
I
yo,
love it.
you know what I mean? It's just like so
That's my
ridiculous.
era.
Yeah, dude, mine too. And Vanilla Ice, the whole thing, dude. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
God, just
MC
taking me.
Hammer. All the
MC
good.
Hammer, dude.
Oh, Tribe Called Quest, Wu-Tang Clan.
Yes,
Come on, man. Give me some.
Digital Underground. Oh man.
Yeah.
So I
Tupac,
go,
Big
yeah.
Snoop.
Oh,
Yeah.
bro, I go way
Come
back.
on.
But I
Yeah.
remember when this was all happening, I kind of was catching on to it, and I was like, okay, what can they do after this? Now they've if you listen to the music of hip hop, it's all about degrading women, which would be, which would also be the same process of removing the man out of the household, implementing drugs. They're all talking about smoking weed and getting high and doing this, and they know that's a gateway. Then that's spreading through suburban America because everyone wanted to be like that. So that became because I mean, remember back in the '80s, it was heavy metal. Then it went to the '90s, and it was hip hop and grunge. It was like hard yo MTV raps, right? So that just took over. To me, that was a total. What they took something that was growing organically, they spotted it and they go, get that and push it out there to white America. Let's take the world by storm with this and put in the drugs, everything. Am I right in that? And take out the father, the household.
And let me say something. They do that to everything. It's not just music. They doing it to sports. They do it to movements. Like you said,
They're
with the
doing it right now
BLM
to the
movement.
Patriot movement.
Bro, look at the NFL ain't what it used to be. We all know this. The NBA, come on.
No way,
I don't
dude.
even watch sports anymore
Neither
because
do
they
I.
got their filthy, greedy corporate hands on it. And this is what they do when they take something that's pure and they spot it and they say, hey, that's potential. What they do is then they start changing it and it starts morphing into something different than what it was intended to be. So yeah, of course, rap is not like what we're used to. Grunge is not like what we're used to where we come from. Sports is
But my
not like
point
what we're
being,
used to. The 90s, the Cowboys, the 49ers,
yeah, no,
teams,
no.
we ain't
Michael
never gonna go
Jordan,
back.
Larry Bird, like when they were playing, it was testosterone, bro. They were hitting each other with elbows,
Thank you.
fighting.
How about Magic and Bird?
Oh,
Those
dude,
days are long gone.
long gone, bro. Like I can't watch a LeBron game, bro. I'm sorry.
I I don't even watch basketball anymore or
No, I
football.
don't. It's
And I'm a
lost its like
Patriots fan.
testosterone, right? It's been so emasculated and watered down. Like when you watch it now, you're just, it's like I
And this
just
is and David, this is my point. This is what they have done to politics. They took and they tested everything, and we become so docile and acquiescent. And like I said, they used the black man first. And what happened was they saw that it was okay. People were acquiescent to what they were doing. They were docile to the music they was changing. And then it started with sports. And like you said, it started with movements, with BLM, and they started planting people. And then it went into politics. And by that time, they knew everybody was asleep. They knew everybody was a sheep. And they said, okay, now what they're doing is I have a mayor in Providence where I was. He's gay, openly gay, has a husband, and He's one of the first people he's now cooperating with Donald Trump. And this is what they do. They got people like Kamala and they put in office, Buttigieg, all of these people, this whole new agenda, this new leftist agenda. Trump is anti-woman. They put these
They
fake
push this,
narratives
yeah.
out there, right? So that they can continue to emasculate the man. And they started it in a black family. And like I said, now it's spread to middle class and rural America. And you're seeing it dominate politics. And we've become so acquiescent. We can't even almost fight back. This is one of the main reasons why I support Trump, because he's a man, what I would consider to be a man to be. He's a leader. He's fearless.
He's an
not
alpha.
afraid to be ridiculed. He's not afraid to stand out and be different. He's not afraid to lead. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take people like him. And this is not a hyperbolic statement. Him and George Washington, people who like are leaders, who change generations by their ability and their fearlessness in leading.
And I want to just go back to my point that I was gonna make, but I got sidetracked with it. I was talking about the '90s, the hip hop, and everyone wanting to be black and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
If you see where we're at now, I used to wonder like, what's gonna be the next move? What can they do next?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and look what it is now.
Right.
That whole agenda going that way. So I got to be very vague on FluffTube about this right now. I'm gonna be very vague. But guess who kicked that off? Black people. They use the black people. Remember that movie White Chicks with Damon Wayans or the Wayans brothers?
How about
Remember that, bro?
Remember RuPaul? She was the first
Yes.
mainstream one.
Yes.
They do this all the time. They use the black person because they understand the dynamics of racial politics. They understand. And it's how they have emotionally manipulated black people for 100 years to keep voting against their own interests. And at this point, white people don't care because they have seen black people make a fool of themselves for so long, they barely have any sympathy left. And this is what politicians know. They drive this. They manipulate this. They facilitate this behind the scenes and get the desired outcome that they want. But when you have a leader like Trump, which is rare because what they do is they snuff him out in the cradle. But he was able to survive and endure. And this is why they went out of their way to discredit him, to defame him, to slander him, to lie about him, or create these false narratives. They did the same thing with me, David. The same thing. The same media that lifted me up, gave me a platform, and pushed my voice out there because I was on their side and on their team, went more out of their way to discredit me and say I'm not an activist, I'm not BLM, I'm illegitimate, I'm fake, I'm a fraud, I'm this and that. Same media. But it didn't change me like it didn't change Donald Trump because, like I said, when you're about the movement work, the fakes get weeded out. And the ones who are actually about this are the ones who are last and endure in it.
Before I let you go, I know you got a hard stop in a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts on the whole Diddy scandal? Do you think he was an operative? Do you think he was used? Do you think there's a big cover up? What's your thoughts on the whole Diddy thing?
I do believe that Diddy is not a Boy Scout, but who in that industry is? And there becomes a time when someone has so much power that they become a threat and they need to be checked. This is what we understand as activists. This is what brought down the Black Panther Party. This is what got Fred Hampton killed. This is what got people like Mandela thrown in prison. Patrice Lumumba killed, because when you become a target, then you're easy to attack. But so with BLM, it's a decentralized movement where there is no one organization that's greater than the other. There's no one state or one city or one person that is above the other. That's what makes us so hard to figure out and infiltrate. You don't know who's who or what's what. That's the part about it that I love. So when you talk about actors and people who make themselves a target, they're just asking to be set up. They're asking. This is why I'm very discreet.
So you think this whole time when he was throwing the white parties, the whole thing, they had him under a microscope. They're watching everything he did.
They gave him that power.
Yeah.
You don't get that kind of power without having it handed to you. That's something that you're allowed to retain. You're allowed to wield until you become a problem. Once you become a problem, you're reminded who's in charge, and it's taken away from you briskly, and charges are put against, and you're put in your place. Charges are brought against you, you're put in your place, and reminded of why this happened this way.
So
And so,
do you think they this whole Diddy scandal, the whole thing is basically they threw him in jail to protect others? It's a
oh
cover.
yeah, it's why they do it to the all of these people, white, black, doesn't matter what your race is. If you are a threat, if you're a problem, you're going to be dealt with. It's because prevention is better than cure. Prevention is worth a pound of cure. And they understood what he had. What he had could have compromised people that we probably to this day wouldn't even believe or couldn't imagine.
I mean, people are nervous, bro. Look at like J Lo. Look at all the people that were around him. They are
They're all
nervous.
starting to come. You're starting to see pictures of everybody come out, and it just makes you
DiCaprio.
wonder, well, how far did his reach go? And that's my point. So think about if he got that kind of pull, over the industry like that. We know they're tied. We directly connected to Hollywood. So he's a threat. He's a problem.
Mark, man, thank you so much for joining me, man. This was epic, bro. This was an epic, epic, epic podcast. Where I know you got a hard stop, that's why I'm cutting it right here. So, where do people find you, man? How do they find you?
You can go to 𝗏𝗏𝗶𝗋𝗏. That's 𝗏𝗏𝗋𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏
BLM Inc.
INC.
.org. So
.org.
can I just put BLMinc.org and they can go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. They
Okay.
can reach me through there.
All right. Reach out again, Mark, and I'm happy to bring you on anytime, bro.
I appreciate it, David. It was good to talk to you, man. As always, man. Hey, stay strong, stay in the game. Hey, in solidarity, man. Let's keep this thing going forward.
You got it. All right, Mark.
Truly.
Thank you.